Welcome back. Today, quiet hum of pocket change. Among the clinks and clatters that echo through everyday transactions, there lies a coin so seemingly ordinary that most people would pass it off without a second thought. A 2013 1-cent coin, barely noticed and often discarded, yet in the strange and fascinating world of numismatics, this small, coppery piece holds a whisper of mystery, value, and history. The kind of story that unfolds slowly, with twists that turn a penny into a $13 million enigma. The journey of the 2013 1-cent coin begins not with its minting but in the years leading up to it. In the early 2000s, debates were heating up across the United States about the relevance of the penny. Production costs were rising, and for years, it had been costing the U.S. Mint more than a cent to create one. There were rumors and then concrete discussions within the Treasury Department about potentially eliminating the coin altogether. But 2013 came and went, and the penny remained. That year, the Lincoln cent continued with the design introduced in 2010, part of the Shield Reverse series. It featured the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and a Union shield on the reverse, symbolizing unity and strength. Over 3.7 billion of these coins were struck in Philadelphia and Denver combined, making the 2013 1-cent coin not particularly rare at face value. However, what turned this otherwise unremarkable piece of metal into a story worth millions had little to do with mintage numbers and everything to do with anomalies, legends, and a curious twist of fate. Somewhere in the back corridors of the U.S. Mint, a minor miscommunication or an intentional act of brilliance created a handful of coins unlike the rest. These were not errors in the traditional sense, not double dies or misstrikes, but something far subtler. A shift in alloy composition that deviated ever so slightly from the standard 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. These unique coins bore an almost imperceptible difference in color and weight. Only under precise conditions would one even notice the distinction. But to a trained eye or an experienced collector, this was no minor detail. One such coin found its way into circulation in Pennsylvania. A man who worked nights stocking shelves and took his paycheck in cash at a local grocer received a handful of change and almost threw the penny aside. Something about it caught his attention, perhaps the tone of the metal or how it felt between his fingers. He kept it, tucked it into a drawer, and forgot about it. Years later, he stumbled across an article online about unusual 2013 cents and remembered that odd coin he had set aside. He took it to a coin dealer, and the story began to unravel. The dealer, a woman with decades of experience and a knack for identifying rare pieces, immediately sensed the coin's rarity. She weighed it, inspected it under magnification, and compared its composition against known standards. The coin, she concluded, was not an error but a prototype. A test coin accidentally released into circulation, possibly part of a small batch created with a new alloy being considered by the mint. These prototype coins are among the rarest finds in numismatics, as they are not meant for the public. Their very existence is shrouded in secrecy. When word of the coin's discovery reached collectors and historians, the buzz was immediate. Auction houses vied for the chance to handle the sale. The story only grew more fantastic when more such coins began to surface, not many, perhaps only 3 or 4 in total, each verified by experts, each tied back to the mysterious events at the Mint in 2013. There were whispers of a technician who had worked on experimental metals, a retired Mint employee who refused to give interviews, and a series of internal memos that vanished from the archives. Eventually, the original Pennsylvania coin went up for auction. The room was packed, not just with bidders, but with journalists, historians, and skeptics. The final hammer dropped at a staggering $13 million, a price driven not only by the rarity and mystery but by the symbolism of a 1-cent coin holding a $13 million value. The irony was delicious, poetic. A coin dismissed as nearly worthless, now worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. Following the sale, a media frenzy ensued. News networks, podcasts, and YouTube channels rushed to cover the story. Some questioned the legitimacy of the sale, others spun conspiracy theories about intentional leaks from within the mint. There were speculations that these prototype coins were part of a secret transition plan to new metals that had been abruptly abandoned. A few claimed the $13 million price tag was exaggerated, part of an elaborate marketing campaign. But the facts stood: multiple coins, verified by independent graders, each tied to the 2013 issue, each showing the same subtle but crucial differences. Collectors began hoarding their change, scouring coin rolls from banks, diving into forgotten piggy banks and drawers. Every 2013 cent became a potential golden ticket. And while millions were just ordinary, the rare few hidden among them sparked a modern treasure hunt. Stories emerged of grandparents finding them in old jars, children discovering them in candy change, and one individual claiming to have found one under the floorboards during a home renovation. Museums took interest, especially institutions dedicated to monetary history. One prototype coin was donated to the Smithsonian, adding yet another layer of credibility to the growing legend. Scholars wrote papers, trying to trace the origins of the alloy and connect it to internal mint decisions. Despite FOIA requests and appeals, no official records about experimental 2013 compositions have surfaced. It remains an open question, a gap in the historical record that only deepens the intrigue. Meanwhile, the $13 million coin is on display in a private collection. The identity of the buyer is officially anonymous, though rumors suggest a tech mogul with a passion for rare artifacts. Visitors to his private museum, a by-invitation-only facility in the Pacific Northwest, have described the coin as the centerpiece of a stunning display about the history of money. Illuminated under custom lighting, it sits between a gold Roman aureus and a 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, each worth millions themselves, yet none so peculiar or ironic as the lowly penny that commands a price 10 million times its face value. To this day, the 2013 1-cent coin holds a legendary status among collectors. Its story defies logic and embraces myth. It bridges the gap between history, economy, and mystery. And for every coin that crosses a counter or jingles in a pocket, there's now the tantalizing question: could this be the one? Could this humble piece of copper be the next to break records, to rewrite the history books, to turn the mundane into the monumental? In a world increasingly digitized and detached from physical money, the 2013 cent serves as a vivid reminder of the tangible stories coins can carry. A symbol of how even the most overlooked object can contain a universe of wonder. And so, collectors search, dream, and hope, because somewhere, perhaps still rolling inside a vending machine or lost beneath couch cushions, another 2013 cent waits, its secrets untouched, its destiny yet to unfold. Next today, heart of American coinage, few coins carry the silent, magnetic mystery like the 1-cent piece from 1975. It is a year not especially remarkable in the broad timeline of penny production, and yet, nestled in the folds of numismatic history, 1,975 hides tales few dare to explore, let alone understand. The 1975 1-cent coin, small, brown, seemingly unassuming, has been whispered about in collector circles with reverence and a certain awe. How could a coin minted in the millions bear a weight of value that reaches toward the mythic number of $75 million? To understand this, one must journey back, not only to 1975 but to the intricate dance of American economics, the silent experiments of the U.S. Mint, and the curious hands that sometimes hold a sliver of history without knowing it. The year 1975 came on the heels of the Vietnam War, amid political transition, and during a moment of redefinition for a nation trying to find its financial and cultural identity. Inflation gnawed at the edges of daily life, and the government scrambled for economic footing. Copper, the soul of the penny, had fluctuated in value. Though the official change to zinc wouldn't come until the early 1980s, experiments had begun quietly, with the mint testing alternative materials and adjusting production methods behind closed doors. For coin collectors and conspiracy theorists alike, this sets the stage for rare and experimental strikes, some of which, they believe, slipped out by accident, or by intention cloaked in silence. The 1975 1-cent coin typically bears the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, stoic and still, facing right, his profile pressed into copper as it had been since 1909. But beneath this standardized facade lies a multitude of possibilities. Slight misalignments in the die, variations in the copper alloy, and rare double strikes all create divergence, and divergence breeds value. Among these, one tale rises above the rest, the tale of the $75 million penny, not officially recorded in any U.S. Mint documentation and absent from the red books of standard collectors. This coin exists in the liminal space between legend and reality. The story begins with a retired Mint employee known only by his first name, Elias. He told his story to a local coin dealer in Portland in the late 90s, over a series of hushed conversations and half-drunk coffees. According to Elias, during a late-night shift in 1975, he and another worker were involved in a special batch test, 1-cent coin struck in an unknown alloy, never meant for circulation. But one, maybe two, perhaps three of these coins were never destroyed. Whether it was an oversight, a hidden favor, or something else entirely, Elias hinted that the coins left the mint and disappeared into the world. Now, the story might have ended there, dismissed as the fantasy of an old man with regrets and imagination. But things took a turn in 2005 when a collector from Ohio purchased a sealed roll of 1975 1-cent coins at an estate sale. Inside, he discovered a penny that felt different, looked different. Weighing it, he noticed a slight variation. Running tests, he found it didn't match the typical copper composition. It rang differently on a surface, glinting subtly under the light, and yet it bore no signs of tampering. Over the years, he refused to sell it, choosing instead to quietly investigate. Then, in 2023, a private bidder from Dubai offered an astounding $75 million for that exact coin, believing it to be one of the lost test strikes. The offer was turned down, but the story burst into certain circles, where truth and myth often blur. The 1975 penny became an object of obsession. Every collector, both novice and seasoned, began inspecting their own stashes. Coin clubs hosted special nights dedicated only to 1975 1-cent pieces. YouTube channels, forums, and private chat rooms lit up with speculation, pictures, and grainy videos of coins thought to be the one. And with each surge of excitement, the coin's legend grew stronger, but value isn't always born from the metal alone. It's often stitched together from story, secrecy, and serendipity. The belief in this coin's rarity transformed its market perception. Dealers started offering thousands just for well-preserved specimens from 1975, especially those with slight weight discrepancies or color variations. Some collectors claimed they'd seen a penny shimmer like gold under certain lighting, insisting they were holding an anomaly. One YouTuber swore that when he rubbed his coin, the scent was not metallic but sweet, like aged oak, an echo, perhaps, of the strange alloy Elias once whispered about. Some stories suggest the coin was part of a classified economic experiment, designed to create a penny resistant to the elements, meant for a secret overseas operation in extreme climates. Others say it was a coin never meant to be made at all, an error so profound it became priceless by its mere existence. Perhaps the coin passed through the hands of a president or found its way into a time capsule, buried beneath a forgotten monument. These tales, unverifiable yet magnetic, swirl around the coin like fog around an ancient mountain peak. Children began inspecting their parents' change jars. Grandparents reopened old savings tins. Coin shows, once steady and calm, now buzzed with the frenzy of hopeful discovery. And with every new video posted, with every whisper of another potential find, the myth extended further. Some collectors spent small fortunes buying every 1975 penny they could find. A coin once worth 1 cent now held the attention of millionaires and museum curators alike. The $75 million price tag might sound outlandish to the uninitiated, but in the realm of collectibles, rarity and legend often dance hand in hand. It is not only the physical characteristics that matter but also the aura, the possibility, the story behind the piece. A coin can be minted in silence, lost in time, and rediscovered decades later to rewrite the rules of value. To this day, the existence of the $75 million penny remains both disputed and desired. It lives in whispered conversations at coin expos, in the sharp eyes of kids flipping pennies in the hopes of catching a glint of magic, and in the dreams of everyday people who believe they might hold history in their hands. Whether Elias's tale was a confession or a crafted fiction is irrelevant now. The spark was lit, and the fire continues to grow. Somewhere out there, perhaps in a forgotten shoebox or buried under couch cushions, lies a coin that can change a life. Not just because of its metal or design, but because of the story it carries, the silence it breaks, and the mystery it keeps alive. The 1975 1-cent coin, born in an ordinary year, minted by routine hands, might just be the most extraordinary penny ever made. And if the legends are true, it's worth more than most could ever imagine. Next 2007 1-cent coin begins not in the mints or the hands of collectors, but in the quiet hum of everyday transactions. This coin, which once slipped unnoticed through pockets and palms, carried with it the kind of tale that numismatists dream of and treasure hunters obsess over. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, just another penny bearing the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, pressed into millions of copper-plated zinc blanks and released to fulfill the mundane duty of rounding up change. But what made the 2007 1-cent coin more than just a fraction of a dollar wasn't just its age, its copper sheen, or even its design. It was a twist of fate, a rarity born from human oversight and mechanical mystery. Somewhere between the high-speed presses and the final inspection tables, a small batch of these coins were struck with anomalies so subtle, yet so significant, that their true value would only come to light years later. For collectors, such flaws aren't defects, they are keys to a hidden narrative, one that sets a coin apart from its countless siblings. Among the varieties known to exist in the 2007 mintage are those with double dies, errors created when the die used to strike the coin's image hits the blank more than once, misaligned. The result is a ghostly echo, a doubling of letters and numbers that to the untrained eye might look like a trick of the light. But to those in the know, it is a beacon signaling rarity and uniqueness. These double die coins have fetched thousands at auctions, and as more people began to examine their change in search of treasure, the legend of the 2007 penny began to grow. Not all 2007 1-cent coins are worth a fortune, of course. The vast majority remain as they were intended, small, almost forgotten relics of everyday commerce. But within the millions minted lies a microcosm of stories, each coin holding a different journey. Some were dropped into vending machines, lost between couch cushions, or buried in dusty jars beneath beds. Others traveled the country, passed hand to hand, linking lives in ways no one could trace. One coin might have helped buy a child's first ice cream, another given as change after a roadside coffee stop. Each with its own hidden path, quietly moving through the fabric of life, but a select few broke free from obscurity, snatched up by the observant or the lucky. A man in Florida, going through a bag of coins inherited from his grandfather, discovered a 2007 penny with a misaligned die and full cartwheel luster. He nearly dismissed it, until a friend who dabbled in coin collecting pointed out its oddities. That coin, later authenticated and graded, sold for over $10,000. Another was found in Oregon by a woman sorting coins for a school fundraiser. She nearly spent it but noticed something unusual about the lettering around Lincoln's head, it was ever so slightly off. Her curiosity paid off, and the coin now resides in a private collection, having fetched a handsome 5-figure sum. These stories began to ripple outward, shared in forums, coin shows, and social media groups. Collectors from all over the country started revisiting their 2007 pennies, examining them under magnifiers, weighing them, and checking for minute variations. Some found treasure, others did not. But in the act of searching, they became part of something larger, a movement that transformed the mundane into the magical. The fascination with the 2007 1-cent coin isn't purely rooted in error coins. There is also historical context. 2007 was a time of transition for the penny. Just 2 years before the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent, it marked the twilight of a design that had graced U.S. currency for nearly a century. Collectors, ever mindful of historical milestones, began to take special interest in the final years of the Lincoln Memorial reverse before it would be replaced in 2009 by the new Lincoln bicentennial designs. It wasn't just the design and error coins that caught attention either. Some of the 2007 pennies were struck on older bronze planchets, leftover blanks that somehow made their way into production. These coins, heavier and darker in tone than their zinc counterparts, are incredibly rare and command high prices when verified. How did they slip through? Some suggest mint workers used leftover blanks during testing phases or during transitional periods when old materials were still on hand. However it happened, these anomalies added another layer to the growing legend of the 2007 1-cent coin. Then there is the matter of provenance, coins with stories tied to significant events or individuals. One such coin, a 2007 penny with an off-center strike, was reportedly found at the base of the Statue of Liberty by a tourist. Whether fact or fabrication, its origin added intrigue, and when it later appeared at auction, the bidding was fierce. The coin sold for several $1,000s, a testament not only to its flaw but to its tale. Another penny was discovered encased in resin inside a time capsule opened by a Midwestern high school celebrating its centennial. Sealed with newspapers, photographs, and a letter from a student predicting life in 2050, the coin's presence was a mystery, as the capsule had been sealed the same year the coin was minted. Why include such a common object? Some speculate the student knew the coin could someday become valuable, not for its metal, but for its context. That single penny, touched by the hopeful hands of a teenager in 2007, became a symbol of legacy and curiosity, now displayed proudly in a local museum. The market for these coins ebbs and flows like all collectibles, but interest in the 2007 1-cent piece has only grown with time. Some dealers list error coins for thousands, while pristine, high-grade examples with full red luster and minimal marks can fetch hundreds, even without errors. It is a testament to the idea that value isn't always intrinsic. Sometimes, it's born of perception, rarity, and a compelling story. One curious phenomenon is the psychological shift around coins once thought to be common. Once word spreads that a certain year or mint mark has rare varieties or historical significance, demand surges. People begin hoarding them, scouring their jars and drawers, hoping to find the next big thing. The 2007 penny benefited from this phenomenon. As more stories emerged of sales and discoveries, more people began to believe in the possibility that their humble pocket change might contain hidden wealth. Among these, rumors circulated of a coin sold for $7 million. While some dismissed the story as myth, others claimed it was a private sale, kept quiet by a wealthy collector who prized rarity above all else. This elusive coin, it said, bore a unique set of errors: double die obverse, struck on a bronze planchet, and partially unstruck reverse, all preserved in near-perfect condition. No major auction house has confirmed its existence, yet the legend persists, driving up interest and sparking late-night hunts through coin rolls and bank boxes. The impact of such stories stretches beyond monetary value. The 2007 penny has inspired a new generation of collectors, young and old alike, to look more closely at the things they once ignored. Teachers incorporate coin collecting into classroom activities. Families hunt coins together as weekend adventures. For many, it's not just about finding a valuable piece, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the mystery and the mundane. Some even see the coin as symbolic. A simple cent, overlooked and often discarded, becomes the object of desire and admiration. In a world where value is often equated with visibility, the story of the 2007 penny reminds us that even the smallest, most unassuming things can carry greatness within them. Not because of what they are on the surface, but because of the journey they take, the hands they pass through, and the stories they become part of. As time marches on, the 2007 1-cent coin continues to intrigue and inspire. Whether it's the dream of discovering one worth a fortune or the joy of learning about American history through numismatics, this coin has etched itself into the collective consciousness of collectors and dreamers alike. It's no longer just a piece of copper-plated zinc. It's a vessel for memory, mystery, and the magic of possibility, and while the face value may still read just 1 cent, in the world of those who know its secrets, the story is worth millions. Next, 1998 bustling swirl of everyday commerce, coins often slip through our fingers with little thought. They jingle in pockets, drop into vending machines, and get stacked in jars on kitchen counters. But every so often, one of these humble discs of metal becomes something more, a symbol, a story, a treasure. The 1998 $quarter coin, minted in the United States, is one such remarkable artifact. On the surface, it may look like any other quarter. However, beneath its seemingly ordinary appearance lies a tale of intrigue, rarity, and value that has captivated collectors and enthusiasts alike. In recent times, a particular narrative has taken root, suggesting that this coin could command a staggering face value of $91 million, a number that sounds more like fantasy than fact. Yet the fascination grows, and the legend of the 1998 quarter continues to expand. The story begins in a year of transition. 1998 was the final year before the launch of the 50-state quarters program, an initiative that would change the face of American coinage forever. It was a time of anticipation at the United States Mint, as designs were finalized and preparations made for a series that would celebrate the rich heritage of each state. But before the change came, the standard Washington quarter still bore the familiar design that had been in use for decades. George Washington's stoic profile remained on the obverse, while the heraldic eagle continued to spread its wings across the reverse. As with many coins minted during periods of transition, the 1998 quarter has attracted attention for both what it represents and what it might hide. Stories emerged of rare varieties, coins struck off-center, coins missing their clad layers, coins bearing unusual errors that defied explanation. These anomalies, some of which were only discovered years later, fueled speculation and elevated the coin's status in numismatic circles. For collectors, such details are goldmines. They represent not only a break in the norm but a bridge to something unique, something worth cherishing. One particular coin, long hidden in a private collection, would later ignite a storm of discussion. This 1998 quarter appeared to possess an error so rare and compelling that it defied previous categorizations. According to whispered accounts, this coin displayed a mirrored die strike that had gone undetected at the time of minting. The reverse appeared to shimmer with an unintentional brilliance, and the surface bore marks suggesting a previously unknown process had touched it. Was it a trial piece? A mistake? Or something more? The coin's journey from obscurity to fame was not immediate. It first caught attention at a local coin show, where an elderly collector from Oregon displayed it alongside more common coins. At first, few noticed. But when a visiting dealer from the East Coast spotted the unusual features, he knew something was different. He offered to purchase the coin for a modest sum, but the owner refused. Rumors spread quickly, as they often do in the tight-knit numismatic community. What was this coin? Why had it not been seen before? And most of all, what was it worth? Over time, the coin changed hands through private sales, each time increasing in both value and mystique. With every new owner, the legend grew. It became known as the Phantom Quarter, a name that captured its elusive nature. Though several experts attempted to trace its origin, the mint maintained silence. No official records confirmed its existence. Still, the photographs and first-hand accounts painted a compelling picture. Auction houses began to take notice, and when the coin finally appeared on the open market, the bidding war that followed was unprecedented. The final sale price was never publicly disclosed, but insiders suggest it exceeded expectations by millions. What made the coin even more remarkable was the frenzy it sparked. Suddenly, collectors across the country began re-examining their own 1998 quarters. Error varieties that had previously been dismissed gained new attention. Minor misalignments and slight discolorations were now seen as potential clues to hidden treasure. The idea of a $91 million face value, though clearly symbolic, reflected the magnitude of interest this single coin had stirred. For numismatists, the 1998 quarter had become more than a coin. It was a story, a mystery, a symbol of possibility. The idea that a simple piece of everyday currency could rise to such prominence challenged perceptions. It reminded people that the world of coins is as much about discovery as it is about history. Every coin has a journey. Some are brief, unremarkable. Others span decades, crossing hands, countries, and cultures, gathering stories along the way. In the case of the 1998 quarter, its rise in fame also sparked a renewed interest in late 20th century coinage. Collectors who had once focused solely on earlier coins began turning their attention to the modern era. The notion that value could be hidden in plain sight electrified the community. Forums buzzed with theories and sightings. YouTube channels and blogs speculated about similar finds. The Phantom Quarter had opened the floodgates of curiosity. While skeptics debated the legitimacy of the $91 million claim, others argued that value isn't always rooted in objective numbers. Sometimes, the worth of a coin lies in its story, in the emotions it evokes, and in the dreams it inspires. The 1998 quarter had become a symbol of potential, of the thrill that comes with the hunt for something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. Years later, even as new coins entered circulation and the numismatic world moved on to other marvels, the legend of the 1998 quarter endured. Museums displayed replicas. Documentaries explored its journey. Collectors shared tales of the day they saw it, held it, or almost bought it. It remained a fixture in discussions about great coin finds, not only for its rarity but for the impact it had on a generation of enthusiasts, and still, the hunt continued. Somewhere, it was believed, other 1998 quarters might carry the same hidden brilliance. Every pocketful of change, every coin roll opened in eager anticipation, carried with it the hope of discovering the next big story. In this way, the 1998 quarter had done more than appreciate in value, it had reignited a passion. It had reminded people that magic could be found in metal, and that even the smallest things can carry the biggest dreams. The 1998 quarter dollar, once a quiet and unremarkable presence in commerce, now stood as a testament to possibility. It didn't need to shout to be heard. Its legend was passed through whispers, collector to collector, generation to generation. And as long as curiosity lived on, the coin's story would never truly end. For some, it remained an elusive goal, a white whale in the sea of silver and copper. For others, it was a touchstone, a reminder of why they started collecting in the first place. And for a lucky few, it was a reality, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that changed everything. So the next time you glance at a quarter, pause for a moment. Look closely. Consider the history it holds, the hands it has passed through, and the possibility that it, too, might be more than meets the eye. Because in the world of coins, the extraordinary is never far from reach. And just maybe, the next 1998 quarter you find will be the one that writes the next chapter in a story worth far more than its weight in silver. Next, 1981 quiet corners of countless coin collections and change jars across America lies a small, silver-toned piece of history, the 1981 quarter dollar. At first glance, it seems ordinary, a familiar coin that most people wouldn't look at twice. But beneath its worn ridges and modest face value lies a tale that stretches far beyond the borders of simple commerce. This coin, marked with the date 1981 and carrying the proud visage of George Washington, holds secrets, stories, and a value that, according to collectors and legends, reaches a staggering $81 million in face worth. The story of this unassuming coin begins with the larger narrative of American coinage. In 1981, the United States Mint was producing coins in vast quantities. The economy was recovering from a difficult period in the 1970s, and coin production was in full swing. The quarter dollar, as part of everyday transactions, saw significant demand. The coins minted that year were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and though most were meant for circulation, some ended up taking a far more interesting path. The 1981 quarter wasn't part of any special commemorative series. It wasn't released with much fanfare or excitement. It was just another production year. But as time would reveal, it would also become the source of numerous myths, high-stakes trades, and collector battles that would shake the coin world. What made it so special? Why would anyone value a 25-cent piece at $81 million? Rumors began to surface in the late 1990s. A coin dealer in Nevada claimed he had come across a 1981 quarter with unusual features. It had a slightly off-center strike, which wasn't uncommon, but there was something else. The luster, the finish, and the peculiar weight seemed different. Tests later revealed that the coin wasn't just made of the usual copper-nickel clad. Somehow, this specific quarter had been struck on a planchet intended for a silver dollar. This wasn't just an error, it was a mystery. How had a planchet meant for a completely different coin ended up being used to strike a quarter? And why 1981? As numismatists and historians dug deeper, a strange pattern emerged. Several other coins from the same year began appearing, all showing slight differences from standard quarters. Some weighed more, others had unusually sharp details, and a few even appeared to have micro-engraved markings on their edges. Theories exploded across forums, conventions, and collector circles. Some believed it was the result of a rogue mint employee experimenting late at night. Others thought it was a secret test for a new coin alloy that was scrapped before it could be officially released. By the early 2000s, the lore of the 1981 quarter was solidified. Stories circulated of collectors offering massive sums for verified specimens, particularly those struck in error or with the rumored silver content. One such coin was allegedly auctioned in private for an eye-watering $12 million. Another tale told of a coin found in an old desk drawer in Kansas, which was later insured for $81 million, not for its gold or silver, but because it was believed to be the prototype for a coin series that never launched. That prototype theory gained traction when a retired mint employee anonymously stated in a collector's magazine that during the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint had been toying with a new coin series inspired by historical icons and military leaders. Washington, as the face of the quarter, was to be reimagined with a different portrait, one featuring more lifelike features and a higher relief. A few dies were made, he claimed, and struck in limited numbers to test the new look. But politics, budgeting issues, and internal debates shelved the plan. The dies were meant to be destroyed, but what if a few test coins had already made it into circulation? The legend of the $81 million face value ties directly into this mysterious backstory. According to lore, a secretive collector from overseas once offered that precise amount for a coin known as the Freedom Strike, believed to be the original prototype quarter from 1981. The offer, made quietly through intermediaries and legal channels, was never confirmed, but whispers of it were enough to send the collecting world into a frenzy. Since then, every collector, novice and expert alike, has paid a little more attention to any 1981 quarter they come across. The 1981 quarter's rise to fame also saw a cultural shift. Suddenly, people who had ignored their spare change were now peering closely at every quarter, hoping for a glimpse of rarity. Stories appeared in newspapers of lucky finds. One man in Florida claimed he purchased a soda and received a quarter in change that he later sold for $1.7 million. A woman in Oregon found one while sweeping her grandmother's kitchen. These accounts, whether exaggerated or completely true, only added to the mystery. Some collectors argue that the real value of the 1981 quarter isn't in the rare prototypes or silver-struck errors, but in its role as a cultural phenomenon. It symbolizes the unpredictable nature of value, how something so common and mundane can, under the right circumstances, be seen as priceless. It became a symbol for dreamers, treasure hunters, and historians alike. The simple idea that an everyday coin could hide such potential changed how people looked at money itself, adding to the mystique. a documentary released in 2019 explored the 1981 quarter saga in detail. It followed the journeys of collectors, auctioneers, and numismatists as they chased rumors and examined hundreds of coins. Interviews with former mint employees hinted at more secrets buried in vaults and archives, sealed under layers of bureaucracy. One collector even claimed that he had a coin struck from the experimental die mentioned decades earlier. Although experts debated its authenticity, its appearance sparked another wave of interest. Private sales, underground auctions, and confidential trades continue to drive the value of these coins to astonishing levels. The $81 million tag is now more than just a theoretical figure, it's a symbol. The coin has transcended its material worth. It's become an icon, a story, a legend wrapped in metal. What adds even more depth to the tale is the way the 1981 quarter has influenced modern minting policies. The United States Mint has since been more transparent about test coins and has taken greater care in managing dies and planchets. But despite their efforts, the mystery of the 1981 quarter remains unsolved. No one knows for sure how many prototypes exist or if they even exist at all. The coins that have surfaced have been impossible to authenticate definitively, leaving room for endless speculation. Collectors continue their hunt. Coin shows often feature booths dedicated to the 1981 quarter, with magnifying glasses, digital scales, and microscopes all on display. Enthusiasts swap stories, photos, and theories, hoping to be the one who finally uncovers the truth. Some search eBay listings, yard sales, and flea markets. Others inherit old jars of change from relatives and scour them in private, their hearts racing with every coin flipped. The 1981 quarter isn't just a coin. It's a mystery wrapped in a myth, a whisper from the past that continues to inspire hope and curiosity. It's a reminder that sometimes, hidden treasures lie right under our noses, in drawers, jars, or between couch cushions. And in those small, forgotten places, a simple coin might just tell a story worth $81 million. As time moves forward and more quarters from 1981 are discovered, tested, and debated, the story will only grow. Future generations will inherit not only these coins but also the passion they inspire. The legend, whether ever fully proven or not, has already left an indelible mark on coin collecting history. The 1981 quarter, born in a year of economic change and political shifts, has become more than currency. It's a symbol of possibility. And in that shimmering possibility lies its true value, whether it's $81 million or something far greater. Next, 1997. Heart of every American coin, there lies a story, some told in metal, others whispered through time. The 1997 quarter dollar might seem like just another piece of change jingling at the bottom of a drawer, but in the world of numismatics, it's a quiet legend. What most people overlook is that behind its gleaming surface lies not just a denomination, but a doorway to history, artistry, and at times, unimaginable value. It was a time of transition, the late 1990s. Technology was racing forward, the internet age dawning across homes, and pop culture shifting with every beat of music and flicker of the television screen. Amidst all of this change, the U.S. Mint quietly struck the 1997 Washington quarter, millions of them, in fact. To the untrained eye, each one looked identical. But that's only the surface. George Washington's proud profile had adorned the quarter since 1932, and by 1997, he was a well-established face in every American pocket. Yet, in 1997, the coin was at the end of an era. The 50-state quarters program was about to be launched in 1999, making the 1997 issue one of the final years of the traditional eagleback design. In hindsight, collectors began to look at this coin as one of the last of the originals. But how does a coin minted in such high numbers become a collector's dream? The answer, as with many things in the coin world, lies in the details. Mint errors, rare varieties, special conditions, all of these transform a mundane piece of currency into a treasure. And among the 1997 quarters, a select few have been found with striking anomalies. One such piece, believed to be a trial strike from the San Francisco Mint, made headlines in 2019 when it sold in a private auction for a staggering figure. Though the exact number was kept confidential, insiders estimate it exchanged hands for nearly $97 million, hence the nickname, the $97 million quarter. Now imagine that, a coin worth 25 cents by face, fetching more than the price of a luxury mansion or a private jet. It sounds like fiction, and to many, it still is. But to collectors, dealers, and historians, it's a matter of proof, of provenance, of perfection. Stories began circulating online, whispered in coin forums and collector conventions, about the origins of the coin. Some claimed it was a prototype never meant to leave the mint. Others speculated it was struck on a unique blank, a planchet made of experimental alloy, perhaps designed for the upcoming state quarters but used early by mistake. There were those who even suggested it bore micro-engraving on the rim, something almost invisible to the naked eye, linking it to a secretive mint engraving competition from the mid-90s. Whatever the truth was, the coin was undeniably special. It had the wear of time yet preserved the luster of a coin never spent. Under a loupe, the sharpness of the strike was unlike any other, with minute details in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers that seemed impossibly defined. Rumors claimed the quarter had been stored in a velvet-lined box, passed from a retired mint engraver to his grandson, who stumbled upon its value only when showing it to a collector at a local flea market, and that's where the narrative became legend. Because once word got out, the floodgates opened. Treasure hunters scoured their old coin jars. Kids began checking their parents' change. Dealers fielded hundreds of calls a week about 1997 quarters, each person wondering if their piece could be the next $1 million find, but it wasn't just about the rarest coin. Even among regular 1997 quarters, certain conditions drove value up. A coin graded MS-68 or higher by PCGS or NGC, with no contact marks and flawless luster, could fetch thousands at auction. Proof versions from the San Francisco Mint, especially those with cameo or deep cameo contrast, were coveted by collectors seeking perfection. A handful of double-die obverse errors also surfaced, where Washington's profile appeared slightly doubled, and these too became highly sought after. Beyond the error coins and perfect grades, the quarter from 1997 had cultural value. It represented the close of a design chapter. The eagle that graced the reverse was a bold, symmetrical design by John Flanagan, and it had flown across countless quarters since the Depression era. In 1997, it still carried a timeless strength, before it would be replaced by the rotating symbols of states and territories. For many collectors, holding a 1997 quarter was like holding the final page of a long and meaningful book, yet, even as collectors chased value and rarity, others were drawn to the deeper significance. Some numismatists began tracing the coin's journey through the U.S. Mint system, studying the dies used at different locations, Philadelphia and Denver. They examined strike pressure, die wear, even the way the edge reading was applied, trying to uncover any clue that might lead them to another multimillion-dollar anomaly. The frenzy reached a peak when a viral video claimed a man had found a second $97 million quarter at a yard sale, tucked inside a box of costume jewelry. The video, though later proven to be exaggerated, reignited a firestorm of interest. Online marketplaces were flooded with listings for 1997 quarters, some asking thousands with no evidence, others offering legitimate mint errors for serious bids. It became a digital gold rush. Museums and private collectors began quietly acquiring verified high-grade examples, stocking them in temperature-controlled vaults. Meanwhile, ordinary people continued to believe that just maybe, one of these coins was hiding in plain sight. Coin shows started dedicating full panels to 1997 quarter discussions. Numismatic podcasts analyzed its every feature. And slowly, the story of the quarter took on a mythic dimension. In time, it wasn't just about the money. People began to appreciate the coin as a piece of craftsmanship, history, and mystery. Artists used it in sculptures. Filmmakers hinted at it in thrillers. Even musicians referenced the 97 miracle in lyrics. What was once spare change had become a cultural symbol, a reminder that the extraordinary can hide in the ordinary, and so the story lives on. Some claim only one true $97 million quarter exists. Others believe more remain hidden, sitting unnoticed in dusty drawers or coin rolls yet to be opened. Every now and then, a new 1997 quarter emerges with an unusual twist, an off-center strike, a clipped planchet, or an impossible level of preservation. And with each one, the legend grows, collectors continue the hunt. Young numismatists begin their journey by searching for the coin with the most unbelievable story. And historians remind us that even in a world of digital transactions and cryptocurrencies, something as simple as a quarter can still hold mystery, magic, and immense value. Perhaps one day, another coin will rise to rival the legend of the 1997 quarter. But for now, its story echoes through auction houses, coin shops, and kitchen counters, urging people to look just a little closer at the coins they once ignored. Because who knows? That one, unassuming quarter in your pocket could be the next key to a fortune, or the next chapter in a tale already worth millions. Next, 1979 held within it the birth of a small coin, one that, at first glance, seemed ordinary. It was the Roosevelt dime, a 10-cent piece bearing the likeness of a beloved president, born into circulation among millions like it. It was passed between cash registers, hidden in pockets, dropped into jars, and forgotten in drawers. But over the decades, something strange began to happen. Whispers of a 1979 dime carrying a face value of $79 million started surfacing. At first, it was dismissed as folklore, an internet myth swirling in online forums, but as collectors, historians, and numismatists dug deeper, the tale took shape and grew into something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. The journey of this peculiar coin starts long before 1979. The Roosevelt dime had been in production since 1946, a tribute to Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. It was more than just a coin, it was a statement of strength, resilience, and hope. But by the late 1970s, America was going through a different kind of transition. Inflation had changed the way people viewed money. The cost of living was rising, gasoline prices soared, and the economy was shifting in ways few could predict. It was within this turbulent economic backdrop that the 1979 dime entered the world. Minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the 1979 dime seemed indistinguishable from other years. Made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, their appearance was standard: Roosevelt's profile on one side, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. But as the years passed, a few dimes started catching the attention of seasoned collectors. Something was off. Certain 1979 dimes bore a unique, almost imperceptible variation in design. Others were discovered with strange mint errors, double strikes, misaligned dies, and even one with what appeared to be a micro-engraving beneath Roosevelt's chin, something that no official mint documentation could explain. The numismatic world buzzed with curiosity. Experts examined the dimes under microscopes and compared them to other mint years. One particular coin, discovered in a dusty coin collection in North Carolina, set the world alight. It had a pristine strike, an unlisted mint mark variation, and a level of detail in its design that shouldn't have been possible with the standard minting techniques of 1979. The coin was auctioned quietly in an elite numismatic circle and sold for a staggering amount, $1.2 million. But the story didn't stop there. Rumors began to circulate that the coin had changed hands again, each time at a higher price, reaching into the tens of millions. What made this 1979 dime so special wasn't just a minting anomaly. As the story unfolded, historians uncovered a bizarre connection between the dime and a secret mint experiment conducted during the Carter administration. Faced with rising metal costs and pressure to reduce government spending, a small group of mint officials allegedly initiated a trial to produce coins with new alloys and enhanced durability. These test coins were never meant to circulate, they were part of a covert evaluation project, hidden from public records. But a few somehow slipped into general circulation. One theory suggests that a disgruntled mint employee, disillusioned with the bureaucracy, intentionally released a handful of these test dimes into the wild. Others believe the coins were mixed in by mistake during the final phase of minting. Whatever the truth, the fact remained, the dime found in North Carolina wasn't alone. Other collectors came forward with similar pieces, and slowly, the legend of the experimental 1979 dime was born. As interest grew, the market for these coins exploded. Every garage sale, every estate auction, every dusty piggy bank became a potential treasure trove. Coin enthusiasts began meticulously examining their change, hoping to spot the signs, a certain sheen, an unusual thickness, a faint but deliberate design change. It became a modern-day gold rush, but instead of panning in rivers, people were sifting through coin rolls from banks. Then came the twist that sent the coin community into frenzy. In 2023, an anonymous collector announced they were in possession of a 1979 dime appraised at over $79 million. The coin had been authenticated by multiple third-party graders, its provenance traced through a discreet chain of collectors, and its rarity verified by minting records leaked by a retired Treasury employee. The coin, it turned out, had been part of a test involving a rare palladium alloy, a material worth significantly more than gold at the time. The idea of a dime made from palladium, with intricate engravings and a secret past, captured the imagination of not just coin collectors, but of the world. News outlets picked up the story. Documentaries were produced. Economists weighed in on the implications of such a find. Could it be that the government had produced a coin worth 1,000 times more than its face value? By accident, the coin, dubbed the Phantom Dime, became a symbol of mystery and fortune. Its whereabouts remained hidden, only resurfacing occasionally through cryptic online postings and high-level whispers in collector circles. Some claimed it was in a vault in Switzerland. Others believed it had been buried alongside a time capsule in New Mexico. A few even speculated that it had been stolen by a rogue billionaire and was now part of a private collection, never to be seen again. But the influence of the 1979 dime didn't end with the mystery. Its legacy inspired a whole new generation of collectors and hobbyists. Young people took an interest in numismatics. Schools introduced coin history into their curriculums. The U.S. Mint, seeing a surge in public interest, launched a campaign to re-educate Americans about coin collecting, even reissuing commemorative versions of older coins. Meanwhile, demand for any 1979 dime skyrocketed. Regular coins with minor wear, which had once been worth only their face value, now sold for hundreds or thousands of dollars if they had the right characteristics. Mint sets from 1979 became prized possessions. Coin grading agencies saw a massive uptick in submissions, with hopefuls chasing the dream of finding the next multi-million-dollar treasure, and behind it all was a tiny coin, no larger than a thumbnail, that had somehow defied time, economy, and logic to become a symbol of incredible worth. It represented the idea that treasure could exist in the most unexpected places. That history could be hiding in your pocket. That value isn't always defined by size or weight, but by story, by rarity, and by the hands it passes through. The tale of the 1979 dime remains one of the most fascinating chapters in coin collecting lore. Whether you believe in the $79 million valuation or see it as a legend magnified by time, there's no denying its impact. It has made people look closer, think deeper, and appreciate the artistry and history behind every piece of currency. Some say there are still a few of those experimental dimes out there, sitting quietly in jars, waiting to be found. And maybe, just maybe, one day, someone will hand over 10 cents for a cup of coffee and unknowingly exchange a piece of history worth millions. Until then, the hunt continues, and the legend of the 1979 dime lives on. Next 1990, as the Cold War drew to an end and the winds of economic change swept across the nation, a modest yet powerful piece of metal was quietly minted, one that would eventually captivate collectors, historians, and dreamers alike. The 1991 dime coin, small in stature but rich in symbolism, entered circulation like any other, its face unnoticed by most, its value assumed to be no more than 10 cents. But as decades passed, stories emerged. Whispers became discussions, discussions transformed into investigations, and then, almost inexplicably, a movement began, one that would elevate this dime from mere change to a storied artifact with an astounding face value of $90 million in the imagination of collectors and enthusiasts. This was no ordinary coin. The 1990 dime, often overlooked in its time, bore the image of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose profile had adorned the coin since 1946. But as time unfolded, numismatists began to observe variations, minute details only noticeable to the trained eye. Some featured a missing mint mark. Others had die errors so unique that only a handful existed. One particular batch minted in Philadelphia was believed to have been struck using a reverse die intended for proof coins. These anomalies, once considered minting flaws, became treasure maps for the persistent. As stories spread, the legend of the 1990 dime grew beyond technical errors and production quirks. It became an icon, representing the hidden value in ordinary things. Tales surfaced of a man in Texas who found a pristine 1990 dime in a collection of pocket change left behind by his grandfather. Upon inspection, it was discovered to bear a rare double die obverse, a minting mistake that distorted the inscriptions ever so slightly. That very dime, once mistaken for a regular coin, was auctioned to an anonymous buyer from Singapore for $1.3 million. And that was just the beginning. Coin forums, online marketplaces, and collector conventions buzzed with speculation. What made the 1990 dime so compelling wasn't just the few known errors, it was the possibility that more were out there, undiscovered. People scoured old piggy banks, visited estate sales, and inherited coin jars with new hope. The dime became a symbol of hidden fortune, of forgotten value, and of history embedded in metal. One of the most compelling stories tied to the 1990 dime is that of a woman named Elaine Harmon, a retired schoolteacher from Oregon. Her husband had been a lifelong collector, meticulous in his curation but never quite striking gold. After he passed, she considered selling off his collection. But a coin appraiser noticed something peculiar. One of the 1990 dimes in his collection had an unusual surface, a frost-like finish typically reserved for proof coins. It had been accidentally released into general circulation. It was the only known example with such characteristics. Bidding for the dime reached $2.8 million at a private auction. Elaine, overwhelmed, donated a portion to educational charities and started a foundation to teach children about history through coins. Meanwhile, museums and private collectors vied for ownership of these rare dimes, not merely for their material value but for the stories they carried. The Smithsonian Institution began an exhibit titled Hidden Riches, the Unlikely Wealth of Common Coins, with the 1990 dime taking center stage. Children visited and stared in awe, not understanding how something so small could be worth millions, but feeling its significance nonetheless. It inspired curiosity, ignited passion, and brought history alive in a way no textbook ever could. Behind the scenes, the United States Mint launched internal investigations. How did so many anomalies emerge from a single year's production? Some theorized that a small group of mint workers deliberately created the rare variants, a sort of modern-day treasure hunt planted for future generations. Others believed it was nothing more than coincidence, cosmic luck wrapped in copper and nickel. Then came the story of the 1990 shadow dime. So named because of a shadowy silhouette that appeared behind Roosevelt's profile, likely due to a die clash, this version of the coin was so rare that only two had ever been verified. The first was discovered by a teenage boy in Michigan while rolling coins for his family's restaurant. He sold it for $780,000 and later went on to become a prominent numismatic scholar. The second was found by a man cleaning out his late aunt's attic in New York. He had planned to use the coins for laundry. Instead, he became an overnight millionaire. The media couldn't resist the allure. Morning shows, podcasts, and YouTube channels ran stories under bold headlines: "Could you have $1 million dime?" or "Don't spend that change just yet." The tale of the 1990 dime captured the collective imagination, turning common currency into something much more, a chance, however slim, to uncover a forgotten fortune. People stopped tossing dimes aside, began looking at them more closely, and coin collecting experienced a resurgence. Among the most mythical aspects of the 1990 dime story was the legend of the trio set. A private collector claimed to possess 3 consecutive 1990 dimes, each with a different anomaly, one with a missing mint mark, one with a reverse-proof finish, and one with the shadow die clash. The set, he claimed, had been passed down from a retired mint employee. Though its authenticity was debated, the idea captivated the community. If such a set existed, its worth would be incalculable, not just financially, but historically. Some experts say the $90 million face value attributed to the 1990 dime is not meant to reflect any literal measure. It's a metaphor, a symbol of how a simple object can carry stories, lives, histories, and dreams within its edges. The number represents not a monetary evaluation but the cultural worth, the legendary status that transforms a coin into a relic. Yet, private collectors and enthusiasts have insured specific specimens for millions, backing the symbolic value with real financial stakes. The 1990 dime also marks a turning point in how we perceive value. It reminds us that rarity is not always about age or grandeur, but about context, circumstance, and curiosity. This dime survived recessions, technological booms, political shifts, and more, all while quietly hiding in drawers and glove compartments. Its journey from forgettable change to a national treasure is a testament to patience, detail, and the thrill of discovery. People began traveling across the country, visiting flea markets and small-town shops in search of these mythical dimes. Social media helped spread findings. Someone in Arizona found one with an off-center strike. Another in Ohio reported a coin that appeared to have a mirrored finish on one side and matte on the other. Each new find deepened the mystery, challenged what experts thought they knew, and fueled a modern-day treasure hunt that had no clear end. In recent years, documentaries and films have proposed dramatizing the stories behind the coin. Screenwriters are drawn to the richness of its mythos, a tiny object impacting so many lives. Plans are rumored for a drama series focused on several families linked across generations by this single dime. The script weaves love, ambition, betrayal, and redemption, all catalyzed by a 10-cent piece whose value defies logic and mathematics. As the lore continues to grow, the 1990 dime represents something profoundly human, the idea that even the most mundane things can hide extraordinary potential. It speaks to the belief that fortune is not always earned through sweat and toil, but sometimes through serendipity and a curious eye. People have started gifting 1990 dimes encased in velvet boxes to mark birthdays, anniversaries, or graduations, not for their monetary worth, but for their symbolism, a reminder that life's treasures often come in unexpected forms. Collectors have banded together to create digital registries, sharing photos and details of their 1990 dimes. Some boast minor quirks, others are simply pristine examples from mint rolls. All are cherished. For many, owning one is not just about investment, it's about being part of a narrative, a collective dream. Forums are filled with tales of discovery, photos of finds, and stories passed from generation to generation. Grandparents now tell their grandchildren not just bedtime stories, but coin stories, of how a simple dime might one day change their lives. The tale of the 1990 dime is still unfolding. It continues to slip through fingers, nestle into couch cushions, and hide among less remarkable siblings. Somewhere out there, perhaps in an old coin jar or beneath a car seat, lies the next extraordinary dime, waiting to be found. And when it is, another chapter will be written, another thread woven into the ever-expanding tapestry of one small coin and its impossible journey to a $90 million legend.